Nope, sorry, I can't work up any excitement for this. So, if you guys saw my previous supercut, you guys would know that I'm a pretty big fan of the Beverly Hills Cop series. I think that series is unique, it's funny, it has amazing music, and even though even pretty much all of them are 7 out of 10s, they're all still really good movies, they're all really rewatchable, yes, even 3, shut up, and I personally really enjoy these movies. I think Eddie Murphy's funny, I love Taggart and Rosewood, I love the action, I love how it's a little bit more of a simpler kind of franchise. It's not super overly complicated. And it's just plain fun. Like, even rewatching these movies right before I watched this one, it's still fun, and I still had a great time. Heck, I'd argue that I'd bump number 2 up to an 8 out of 10, because it was a lot funnier on second watch than it was on the first watch. So, yeah, I enjoy these movies. So when I heard that there was a fourth coming, I was super excited. Everyone, they got all the legacy characters back, including Taggart this time, who was not in 3. It's decades after the original. It's going with the whole like legacy sequel format, and the trailers look pretty good. So I was excited to check this out. But unfortunately, it's just another one in the line of disappointing sequels for the year. Now, does that make it bad? Absolutely not. This is not a bad movie. I'd call it okay, but compared to how much I really enjoy the first 3, even though, again, they're all 7 out of 10s except for the second one, that's an 8, but I digress. Unfortunately, this one just didn't work for me, and that is a huge shame because I felt like a fourth one could have been great, but they focused on something that, in my opinion, was straight up terrible. The daughter storyline. Ugh. I mean, I know there's a few critics that already pointed out, and I'm not trying to sound sexist or anything, but I hate the daughter storyline in this movie. It is so boring. Heck, it feels like a cheaper rehash of what Bad Boys is currently doing with the son of Will Smith's character, and how he came back in the fourth one after he was introduced in the third one. But unfortunately, whereas that character got a little bit more interesting in 4 and had some pretty cool moments, the daughter in this movie had almost nothing. She was whiny, she was annoying, she was bland, she was generic, and there was no interest in her character whatsoever. Like, think about that. The daughter of your main character, of Axel freaking Foley, is the worst part of the entire movie. How do you do that? That just blows my mind. Now, does this mean that I think this movie is a completely pointless train wreck? No. I do think this movie is worthwhile for one watch, but man, compared to the first 3, it is very under par and very disappointing. So, yep, I don't really have much to say. I already forgot to do my intro, but here's my written review of Beverly Hills Cop 4, Axel F. Why they didn't just call it Beverly Hills Cop 4 is beyond me. Keep in mind, it's nothing more than my own personal opinion. If you disagree, that's okay. And if you enjoy this movie, that's okay. I'm glad that you find enjoyment in it. And there are some moments that I do like in it, but just personally for me, it just didn't work. Pretty big disappointment. Here's my written review. I hope you guys enjoy. Well, that was a big disappointment. Granted, it's not a bad movie, and it's far from the worst of this year's sequels, but unfortunately, it just wasn't good either, and is by far the weakest of the 4 films. Yes, I'd argue it's weaker than 3, because at least 3 was still fun. Pros. The acting is still good, Eddie Murphy is still Eddie Murphy, dude's always funny, even in terrible movies. The legacy characters, with one exception that we'll get to, are still great. They're all still exactly how you want them, again with the exception of the one that we'll get to. The Easter eggs and callbacks to the original trilogy are nostalgic, even including some of the music from those movies, like the first scene we see with Axel chasing down somebody in a giant cement truck, they played the music from the opening of the first movie. Nostalgic and really cool. It's nice to hear that music again. And the action is fun. Yeah, I'd say that the action in this movie is fun. I don't think it's anywhere near the level of like Bad Boys 4. That movie's action is awesome, but it's still really good action here. It's solid enough. I like the helicopter scene. I think the whole thing at the very end of the movie, while drawn out, is fun. And the opening cement truck chase, I'd say, is probably the best part of the movie because that felt like something from the first three. Because it's ridiculous, it's over the top, but it fits Axel's character, and you add in that classic music. That's the best scene in the movie for me. But the cons are pretty big. Like I said, the daughter character in this movie is terrible and is the worst part of the entire movie. I think even the fans of this movie can agree with me on that, because I've seen a couple other reviews of this movie from a few other people, and they say the same thing that I do. The daughter storyline is the weakest part of the movie. All the new characters are extremely boring. You know your legacy sequel has failed when the new characters that you tried to introduce are boring. Like, huge waste. Yes, that includes the supposed love interest of the daughter character. He's just boring. Like, I don't find him interesting. He's just boring. The villain is a throwaway. It's yet another, say it with me now, asshole in a suit. This time played by Kevin Bacon. And you'd think that would make it at least a little better than the other ones, but no, it doesn't. It's just another generic, throwaway, stereotypical, cliche, derivative asshole in a suit that you're gonna forget after like 5 minutes when you finish watching the movie. Like, nothing against Kevin Bacon. Like I said, the acting here is still good. But character-wise, I just don't care about this villain at all, and I don't find him intimidating. Nowhere close to the villain of the first or the third one. Taggart is character assassinated in the worst way imaginable. I hate what they did to Taggart in this movie. It genuinely pissed me off. Because now he's the cranky old police chief, and instead of trying to help Axel, until the very end of the movie, he's trying to work against him. Like, no, that does not fit his character. That feels wildly out of character. And I get it. Like, many years have passed since the original. I get it. Maybe things happened off screen that we don't know about. But still, I don't buy that Taggart would become this, like, upstart asshole through this freaking movie. I do not buy him as this, like, short-tempered police chief that hates Axel. No, I don't buy that at all, because last time I checked, he likes Axel, and he likes Billy. So I don't know why he's so cold to them through the majority of it. And yes, I watched the whole movie. I even re-listened to a bunch of different lines of dialogue several times to try and figure out why he's so pissed at them all the time. But there's barely anything that even tries to make this work. It just feels out of character. And in my opinion, it's character assassination at its most obnoxious. Like I said, the daughter character, worst part of the movie. Taggart's character assassination is the second worst part of the movie. And unless it's directly from Axel himself, all the jokes fall completely flat. Axel's still funny, everyone else has no good jokes. Like, if it's not coming out of Axel's mouth, it's just an eye roller. And again, this is from the same franchise that started with one of the funniest scenes I've seen in an action movie. Banana in the tailpipe. Like, that is still funny as hell. So how is this like this? How did this come from the franchise of this? Like, it doesn't even feel like a Beverly Hills Cop movie outside of the character names and the music. Because all the jokes in this movie that aren't from Axel are not funny. Like, they're not funny. They're boring. It's a huge shame. That's what it is. It's a huge freaking shame. It should be way funnier, but it's not. If it's not Axel saying the joke, then everyone else's jokes fall flat. Overall, this is as average and run-of-the-mill of a legacy sequel as it gets, and this franchise should be anything but run-of-the-mill. As flawed as 3 was, it was at least still fun to watch. This was just corporate boneheads trying to recreate the success of Bad Boys 4 without even remembering what made Beverly Hills Cop a great franchise to begin with. And after having to wait years to get a new one, this was just unacceptable. At best, it's a one and done, but otherwise just skip it. It's not a good movie, and it's one of the weakest legacy sequels I've ever seen. Not the worst one, but far from the best one. So, that's going to bring me to a final verdict, and this may or may not be controversial, but this is coming from a fan who was extremely disappointed by this movie. Will it be in the biggest disappointments of the year list? I don't know, because there's been a lot of disappointments this year, and a lot of them have been terrible. But this one, it's not terrible. It's just really disappointing, especially after having rewatching the first 3 beforehand, and still having a great time watching those movies. But I can't lie about my opinion, guys. Look, I piss off the internet all the time. I am 100% aware of that. But I was expecting more. So, because of that, final verdict for this movie is going to be a dead average, disappointing, but brutally honest, 5 out of 10. A 5. It's just not good. But it's not bad, it's not good. It's just average. Well, that's it. Sorry this review was so sad and disappointing, but the movie was so sad and disappointing, so it felt like it fit. Hope you still enjoyed regardless, and I'll see you in the next review.
You cannot take it anymore. The time has come. Prepare to fight. We're ready for.